The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Geek Nation Tours, and by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everybody for your fantastic support. We really appreciate it. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 228. Whatever happened to Ambush Alley Games? With hosts Neil Shuck, Mike Hobbs, and Mike Whittaker, and guest Shawn Carpenter from Ambush Alley Games. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. My name is Neil Shuck. If I sound a little bit different, it's because the setup for this week's recording is a little bit different. I am not in my usual abode. I'm actually currently sat in a hotel room in the middle of London. And the show is being recorded by the other technical guru of our team, by Mr. Michael Whittaker. Hello, sir. Good evening. How are you?
Greetings from Mission Control, Peterborough.
How are you? How's the cake?
I'm cakeless. Nobody brought me cake.
Nobody brought us cake, which was shocking. Shocking, I tell you.
Clearly we are not Test Match Special.
Indeed. And yes, we've obviously fallen out of favour with the cake fairies. Never mind. There's always next year. And, of course, we are joined by the Welsh wizard himself. It is Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello, sir.
Hello, one and all. Hello, Meeps.
And how are you, young man?
I'm okay. Yes, very well. I'm glad to be here on this fine and sunny afternoon.
You do realise you've really done it now, don't you, Hobbs?
Yeah, I think I just should have crack a thunder.
I had someone come up to me at Hereward and introduce themselves as a Meep.
Yay! I told you it'd catch on.
But possibly more than one person.
Well, there we go. It's all Hobbs' fault.
Yes.
Yes. Greetings, hello, one and all. So let's start tonight's show before we go any further with what has to be one of the biggest facepalm moments that we've seen in recent weeks, and a brilliant example of how a company goes and shoots itself in the foot. With the Conan Book of Set Kickstarter. Oh my word. That was uneventful.
Could have been handled better.
You are the very soul of diplomacy, Mr. Hobbs.
Yeah, it's definitely a sign of a company underestimating the popularity of their product.
Yeah, quite outrageously so. Yeah, I'd say if you weren't aware, having advertised it for weeks in advance, and they've been mailing us for quite some time. Everyone who backed the original Kickstarter, they were saying, "Okay, what we're doing? Yeah, we're doing a 5-day Kickstarter. It launches on the 5th of September, and okay, you'll be able to get hold of some bundles of the original Kickstarter. I mean, okay, it'll be a bit more expensive, but you'll get some bundles of the original Kickstarter models, and also we're going to be doing a new scenario book." And it's like, yeah, it's okay. The scenarios are available online, but we're going to put some extra bits and pieces in it, and it's going to be produced in exactly the same way as the campaign book. Which, if anybody's got the campaign book, is actually rather nice, is it not, guys?
It's lovely.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
Really good. Yeah.
Which I suppose is why people kind of went, "Ooh, that'd be nice."
Mm.
And all along they've been turning around and saying, "Okay, we're going to have limited supplies of all the bundles." So there'll be limited amounts of the the Kickstarter exclusive models, and there'll be limited amounts of the King pledges, and there'll be limited amounts of the all-in pledge. And unfortunately, what they failed to mention was that there was actually going to be limited amounts of the scenario book as well, which was only we only found out when they launched it. And most of us found out probably about an hour too late.
And when we say limited, we mean limited.
Yeah. 400 English copies to cover Europe, Africa, South America, and Russia.
Gun foot.
Yeah, there was 800. I think there was 800 copies to cover the States. I think Australia and New Zealand got 100 or 200 copies.
I think 200.
I think it was 200. I think I think the Far East got 100. But of course, there were 700 French copies.
Yeah. Yeah, they all sold out in about an hour. Just leaving the bigger.
The only one that didn't sell out quickly was the American one. I think when I went on the website this morning, there was one left. But by that time, yes, I think the phrase "stall" springs to mind.
To be fair, they did go whoops and rectify the problem.
Yes,
but
unfortunately, it's just something I've blogged about. It's one of those things of kind of going, yes, but these things could have easily been avoided by better communication, better engagement with their client base. And I mean, if nothing else, turning around and saying, "Oh, by the way, we're thinking of doing this. What do you think?" And I think everybody would have gone, "What?" Because everybody did go, "What?" When you've got 16,000 backers of a Kickstarter, and when you produce a scenario, even if it's it's the other two around say, well, you can get them all for free anyway. That's not the point. They're dealing with people who are a little bit OCD about collecting stuff.
Yeah, they just got the numbers completely wrong. What they do, an English print run of about probably 2,000.
Preferably done from somewhere in England, because, dear Lord and Father of mankind, it's a 95-page book. I'm just about prepared to believe that you're going to charge $18 for it, but $14 postage? Give me a break.
Yeah. They've done one postal price for all the English ones, so one postal price to cover Russia, Africa, South America, and all of Europe.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So effectively, what's happening is that the UK is subsidising it being sent stuff that's being sent to South America.
This Wargamer isn't.
Yeah, not their finest hour. It would have to be said.
No.
But as I say, they did move quickly to sort it out when they realised they'd what's the phrase? They dropped a bit of a whoopsie. But there was the typical teddy out of prams from some people and what have you. But even so, there was a slight overreaction in some way, shape, or form. At the same time, there were several people who were pleased to get hold of their all-in pledges and king pledges and what have you. So some people were happy, but some of the completists among us. I mean, Mr. Hobbs obviously got in, straight away. He was on the ball. Yes, I suffer from the fact that unfortunately I was I was in the bar drinking at the time. As you do when you're in a hotel with work colleagues, and it wasn't until I adjourned to the bedroom that I suddenly went, oh, hang on a minute. I'd forgotten about that. Too late.
Well, you can order one now and just pay the postage. The high postage.
Can't afford it.
Yeah. Never mind.
You haven't seen the bill for my new clutch.
I could imagine the bill for your new clutch.
Free clue, my only disposable wargaming income is £10 that happened to land in my PayPal account on Sunday.
Oh, I wouldn't get. Oh no, I'll spoiler alert. Yes.
Suffice it to say that the clutch bill's in 4 figures, and I'm not going to buy anything for a bit.
Crikey.
That poor thing has had 70,000 on the clock.
That's good then.
Probably it's past due for something. It got dodged a bullet in its last 2 MOTs, so it's probably overdue.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Right, so that made an entertaining middle of the week. But so Mr. Hobbs, I'm sure, will be showing off his copy when it turns up in November, while I have to wait till February for mine.
And I'll just print the downloads.
Yeah.
So we'll be all covered. Yeah. I must be. I'm kind of tempted to go, stuff it. I'll just get the scenarios.
Yeah,
but we all know that's not going to happen because I'm a completist.
Unfortunately, people know us far too well. Right. Shall we take a quick break and then we'll find out what we've been up to. But before we do that, just to let you know what's going on today. Obviously, we're going to be catching up with what we've been doing. And for our feature part of this show, we are going to be finding out the answer to the question, what on earth happened to Ambush Alley? You may remember Ambush Alley were producers of Ambush Alley and Force on Force and Tomorrow's War and a couple of other games, and they had a deal with Osprey Publishing, which came to an end a couple of years ago. I caught up with Shawn Carpenter from Ambush Alley a couple of weeks ago to find out what life was like after Osprey. So we've got that interview coming for you a bit later on in the show. However, let's take a break and then we'll chat about what we've been doing.
I must get through to Sergeant Watson's position. Jenkins, cover me.
Sir.
Whoa. Sergeant Watson, bring your men in. Withdraw.
It's all right, sir. We're enjoying ourselves.
What?
Yes, sir. It's these here chain of command rules, sir. We're having great fun.
Chain of command?
That's right, sir. It's a challenging but fun blend of command and control. It gives me the freedom I want to fight the way I want to. Never had so much fun, sir.
And we've cooked you some sausages.
Can't be helped, sir. Me and the lads are staying put.
Chain of command, World War II, platoon level rules from two fat laddies. They really put you in control. And they're even better than sausages.
What have we been playing? What have we been buying? We might even have painted something. The Meeples and Miniatures crew reveal all.
And we're back.
Indeed. It has been something of a busy week, I think it's fair to say, in one way, shape or form.
So, for some of us.
For all of us, I think.
A busy week in different ways, I think it's best to say.
Yep.
Yes, some of us have more to say in different parts than others. I think, actually, because it's about time he did, because he hasn't done it for a while. Mr. Hobbs, shall we start with you?
Oh, this should be fun.
Goody. Right, okay then.
Come on, young man, what have you been doing?
You lot are very unscrupulous. Right, what have I been doing? Painting. I've been painting stuff. I've been painting Urukai for a change.
No, surely not.
Yes. The Urukai mountain is starting to thin. over 100 now. Only a few more to do. I'm
Over 100.
Yeah, I should have about 150 by the time I finish.
Isn't that? I'm sorry, but isn't that a little overkill for the kind of project that we were thinking of, or are you just kind of thinking big?
I'm just thinking they're easy to paint, and I got lots of them.
It's just because you don't want to paint your 50-odd warg yet, isn't it?
The wargs aren't a problem. It's the Rohan. But unfortunately, I'm currently running a Twitter poll to see which army I should paint next, and everyone's going for Rohan. Oh God, horses!
That's going to make my 32 Normans pale into insignificance. You do realise that?
There's a very nice online guide on painting horses, you know, mate.
Yes, there is.
It's incredibly comprehensive. Anyone would think it's been written with reference to a vet.
Mm.
Can you trust me? The vetting question says I know more about horse genetics than she does.
Can you just give me the too long didn't read version, which is painted brown?
Mostly bay, not brown. Don't forget black mane and tail and ear. Black mane and tail.
Yeah, I'm going to go for my usual technique of using the Kev Dallimore methods.
Right. The quick approach, in all honesty, is divide them into quarters. Paint a quarter of them black, undercoat, paint the rest brown, and paint 3/4 of those with black mane and tail.
Yeah, but I'll be doing them, mate, so I'll just be mixing them up. I've got lots of lovely foundry horse colours, which I like to use.
Yeah,
So
basically you want about a quarter black, a quarter of the remainder chestnut, and everything else bay. And don't forget odd white socks here and there.
Oh yeah, I do like a white sock on a horse. It makes it.
Yeah,
But
not always the same number.
Oh yeah. Mix them around, and also the different colour hooves as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, that's tomorrow Mike's problem, or next week's Mike's problem. At the moment, it's Urukai time. I've had one game this week, which has been a solo game of 7 Continent. I tried out one of the others, the Curses. I really like that game. It's good fun. So me and my mate Mark are going to meet up next week, and we're going to get back to our original game and try and get off the island. So that'll be fun. I had a present turn up from lands foreign. Mr. Mustafa sent me over some copies of Rommel for the play testers, and one review copy for a certain reviewer. That'll be you, Mr. Chuck.
Oh, sorry, I was saving that for later. Yes, thank you, Sam. A huge surprise, even signed.
Yeah.
And we both get name checked in the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
I'm shocked you're in there. Yeah. I picked up 2 Kickstarters this week. The keyword there is I picked them up. I got my my last Sunrise, the Gothic Horror Kickstarter that Annie from Bad Squid of Games ran last month. I picked that one up, and they're some fantastic figures.
They are nice, aren't they? They are really nice.
Yeah, so nice. They're going to be great for Empire of the Dead. Pulpy game or Pulp Alley or something like that.
Fitting really well. They're fitting really well with that range, don't they?
Yeah, they're so nice. Really, really beautiful sculpts. And also, keeping to the undead Gothic-y style, I got my March of the Dead figures. So this is the ones that Phil Haynes sculpted up. So these are all a bunch of zombies and undead things, including a fantastic Weir Ram.
I forgot about those. Yeah.
Huge, great undead ram. And for the Welshman, brilliant. So I got those. So that, again, those are going to be good. I think the undead figures, they're going to be good for Otherworlds and, well, Pulp Alley again, I suppose. All sorts of things. Really lovely figures. Phil's done a fantastic job on those. And that's all. Nothing else at all has happened. Oh, I bought some paint. I bought 3 pots of paint.
You bought 3 pots of paint that arrived in a rather large box today.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't that big a tin, were they?
Well packed, mate. Well packed.
With what?
Well, half the box was taken. Half of the box was taken up by Rise of the Empire, the Star Wars Rebellion add-on.
I don't know how sad it was the fact that the slight slither of box lid that he'd left peeking through the brown packing paper. I just zoomed the photo in and went, "That's an FFG logo. I know what that is."
Yeah, I've had a bit of a mad week this week. I mean, let's be honest. I've had my front redone. I bought a new shed. I've got a new car which I'm picking up tomorrow, and we booked a holiday.
Oh, crikey! Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of puts it into perspective. These 4 little things that I picked up this week.
4.
Oh, it's
4. Yeah. Do you see the way I sort of slid that in there, Mike?
Yeah, I only count 3.
Yeah. Well, I've only mentioned 1. There's another 3 things.
So this is 3 things on top of the 2 sets of Kickstarter.
Oh, the Kickstarters don't count. They were paid for.
Kickstarters don't count because you were paid for the races.
Yeah.
Okay. It gets worse.
Yeah. So, you remember a few weeks ago I mentioned the Grognard Files, this brilliant podcast about old RPGs?
Yes.
Well, I was listening to the episode about Stormbringer, which is an Elric.
Oh, the Elric one. Ooh,
yeah. Based on the basic roleplay mechanics, which is pretty much RuneQuest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found a copy on eBay, which we actually finished last week when we were recording, and I got very distracted.
Oh, that's why you went quiet for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got that for a ridiculously low price.
Yes, there was actually a year I won my eBay auction in the chat somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's turned up. Oh, it's mint, absolutely mint, which is not bad for a game that came out in 1983. So, yeah, so thank to Dirk for making me buy things. You're a bad influence, Mr. Dirk.
Oh, I suppose. I suppose it makes a change. The shoe being on the other foot.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to blame people. I popped over to see my lead pusher Jeff because he had a few bits left for his Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yes.
So I couldn't see those few figures being left there, so I picked them up.
What? The rest of what was left in the box?
Yeah. Yeah, so I got the
Hang on a second, isn't like so you did get the Witch King on the Foul Beast?
Yeah. And Shelob's Lair and a Gandalf. And I think that was all.
Can I refer the honourable gentleman to the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago when I asked you about the Witch King on the Fell Beast and what you may have responded at the time?
Well, 2 is always nicer than 1, Neil.
Which is very true.
Yeah. And then, as we're doing the full confessional, I got distracted by Mr. Shook when we were chatting, and he told me that the Lord of the Rings card game can be played solo, which I didn't know. So I thought, for research, because I've never had a living card game, I thought I'd better have a look at one. I think it'll make me a more rounded gamer.
You think?
Yeah. Can I finish now?
We're just leaving you a pregnant pause in which to complete your confession, my son.
Pregnant pause. Yeah, so, yeah. Four fairly large purchases. 1 freebie, 2 Kickstarters. And we're done.
And how much more of the card game are you planning on buying?
I don't know. I'll see what it's like when I play it. I might just... I don't know. I might just stick the code. I'm thinking how often am I going to use it. I'm not going to use it in tournaments, so I don't have to go down the deck building side of things. I just want it for a nice little solo game when I'm sat at home and got nothing to do. And I think it'll fit quite nicely for that. So I'll see how much play I get out of it. If I get bored of what's in the core box, then I might pick up one of the expansions.
have you considered the possibility if you get bored with the core box, you might just ditch the game?
Oh, don't be daft, Mike. You know, if I don't like it, then yeah, I'll ditch the game. If I get bored of it because I like it and I played it until I can't play anymore, then the next step is to buy a few more. But there's 113 expansions for the game. It's
how many?
113.
Sheesh, and you thought Imperial Assault was bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, admittedly, the game's been running for a while now, but yeah, I think most of Middle Earth is fairly covered at this point in time.
I sort of looked at them and thought, I got no idea where to start, so I'm just going to push them all to one side and forget about them until I get bored of the core game.
Yes, as I say, I'll have to take you to one side and explain how the whole thing fits together.
Yes,
at some
please
point.
do, but it's very confusing.
Yes, I could imagine. Yes.
Like I said, I'm just going to stick with the core game for now, do some solo games, see how I like it. If I like it, maybe I'll expand.
Nice artwork, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
Great production.
As I said, the production, the artwork on all the cars is just stupendous. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite nice to see something that isn't linked to the films.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a slightly different take on some of the characters and stuff. But the artwork is fantastic. And as you can imagine, considering how many cards are now out there, it's there's a whole ton of it.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
can see why people get sucked into it. You know, when you can start making your own decks. You know.
Yeah. And as I say, it sounds like I need to I need to come down and bring the rather large box that I have, which contains my current collection, and yes, I'll have to come down and we'll have a play.
Cool. We shall do that.
Good stuff.
So, which one of you gentlemen wants to go next? Because I want to hear about Hereward.
Well, if you want to hear about Hereward, surely the person to tell you all about Hereward is Mr. Whittaker.
Yeah. Go on, Mike.
Oh, right then. It was a Wargames show. It was fun.
You need a little more than that. Come on, you've been spouting off about it for the last couple of months. We want the full debrief.
A good time was, I think, had by all. We had about 25 traders, 20 games, a few very nice ones. The jolly nice Lenten Games chappies brought their Oppie Wood again, which was lovely. Quentin brought Forager, which was also very nice.
Indeed.
That was a lovely, lovely table. So much so it won the Nick Hawkins Memorial Award for Best Build. Because that was completely scratch-built, barring the wagons, apparently, which very, very nice piece of the peninsula, essentially. Had a bunch of nice traders. Dave's Wargames are new to me. Another range of nice MDF buildings in 28mm and a few in 15. So I picked up some in 15. Your friends from the Airbrush folks were there.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I resisted the temptation. Mostly because I was too busy running the front desk. What else? All in all, it was a good show, I think. Certain people found bargains before they'd been in the show more than 10 minutes.
Spoiler alert!
Of which more later. And I was knackered. Not least because I didn't get to bed until 1:45 on the morning of the show because somebody broke our trophy.
Which trophy?
The Nick Hawkins Memorial Trophy was 3D printed because I think we thought Nick would have quite liked that, being as how he was quite big on the 3D printing. It's actually a 3D wood effect filament 3D printed base with one of Nick's aircraft designs on top. And my wife went to collect it from the engravers because we had a little plaque engraved to stick on, stuck it on the front seat of the car, threw us our handbag on the front seat and snapped us down. Oops. So by the time I got back from whatever it was I was doing, watching James play cricket, I think, at 6 o'clock, I had to fire off another print job, which didn't finish until midnight, and then needed 10 minutes to cool down and make sure it all fitted again. So I got to bed at 1:45 and had to be up at 6:45. So I didn't get an awful lot done on Sunday evening, and a lot of coffee was drunk.
I can imagine, but it's good to hear that it went well.
Well, once I've done with the what else I did, you can ask Neil what he thought. So other than that, I've been prepping for the next round of the club's I Ain't Been Shopping campaign. Quite helped by having last week off, so fortunately I didn't take all my time prepping for Hereward, so I did prep the scenario for the folks, which involved a couple of bits of building and painting, a 1/44 scale, 1/144th resin Spitfire, which didn't survive being painted because I dropped it on the concrete from 4 feet up.
Did it not fly?
No. Really, very much not. It broke into about 8 pieces.
Ooh.
Fortunately, several people on Thingiverse have designed Spitfires. None of them seem to understand how to make a Spitfire printable, so I found the best one and basically sliced it in half right down the centre line, and then put both halves down on the sliced surface to print, because that actually prints quite well. So they actually got a 1/100th scale 3D printed Spitfire instead of the broken remains of a 1/144th one. But hey, it was there. It was good. Skytrek's Churchill armoured ramp carrier. You stand by to be shocked and appalled on a base.
On a base?
On a base.
Sounds perfectly reasonable to me.
Because
we've converted him.
No, you
Excellent.
have not. Fundamentally, it's a blob of resin for the tracks and the roadway, and then 4 pieces of white metal for the ramps. And the fixing points for the white metal onto the resin consist of about 4 little 1mm square patches. And there is absolutely no way you can get those to hang on with superglue without basing it to support the other end.
Mm.
So, frankly, it's a piece of scenery. Because they also don't do a ramps up version. So basically, the players were moving around a turretless Churchill. Well, actually, they're moving around a blind most of the time. And it's a based piece of scenery with a riverbed under it, because frankly, it's just impossible to build any other way. It's not the first of the Skytrex model that I've found, but their ideas on how to fix part A to part B seem to consist of an awful lot of faith in about 3 1mm square patches of superglue. What else? There was a couple of engineer sections, because they were expecting to have to blow up a minefield. Sure, there was something else. Oh, a base for the Spitfire, which got 3D printed. I think that was it. Yeah, so that was it. And a rather good session of I Ain't Been Shot around the club, which the British won for once. Considering they've been sort of beating their head against German defences, which is a perfectly normal state of affairs for Italy, they actually managed to basically force the Germans into a rather yucky little salient in the middle of town and surround them on 3 sides, which I think we generally agreed was not a tenable position for the Germans. So that was fun. Other than that, prepping for next week's Club's Border Reavers campaign, resisting the temptation to buy a few more figures because I need some archers, but I don't have any money because we're going to replace me clutch. And that's pretty much me, I think, unless somebody else wants to remember something I've forgotten.
Right. So down to me then.
Yep.
I haven't got a tremendous amount of painting done this week. Didn't manage to do a little bit on my Tsutomu Ashigaru and Samurai. Hampered by the fact that I'm spending half my week stuck in a hotel room in the middle of London. Having come in on the train, it was a case of, I wasn't going to cart painting kit around. Which, to be honest, if I go to some other hotels, I actually do, or have done in the past. Little painting done this week. Stuff we did, went to Hereward on Sunday. Was it me, Michael? Or was it a bit quieter than it has been in the last couple of years?
Yeah, but I think so's every show, to be honest. The other partisan was certainly a bit thinner on the ground. We did actually consciously thin out the traders just a little, because last year, if you remember, there was that big spine of traders down the middle of the room, which yes. I don't think quite a few of the traders weren't that fond of. so we took that out, which reduced the trade account a bit. But we still had over 250, 275 warm bodies in there, and everybody seemed to enjoy themselves.
Well, no. It's just saying it did seem a little quieter than it did last year. Perfectly nice show. Some very nice looking games. Managed to, interestingly, the Oppywood game that the Lantern Gamers did, James Morris. It's got a really interesting backstory, really interesting story behind it. Which I was so much so that I actually recorded an interview with James that I'm actually going to do something different with, and I'm going to put it on a YouTube video with a load of pictures from the game. So look out for that, and it'll be all about James explaining the history behind the game, why they actually put it together. And also some of the technical details as far as making scenery. But that was really interesting. Yeah, some nice looking games there. Lots of participation games going on. As was hinted at earlier, it was responsible for one of two major purchases on the day. The one was all down to my good friend Mr. Whittaker, who very kindly produced some DX9 Stormtrooper transports for me, 3D printed, because I asked him nicely, and because as we were talking last week about, or the week before, sorry, about the assault gunboat coming out for X-Wing, I had this crazy idea about I think I might need some Stormtrooper transports, and of course, Fantasy Flight don't do them yet. However, somebody had put a print up on Thingiverse, and lo and behold, if you look around, there's even there are even stats for X-Wing. So they will be appearing in an X-Wing campaign sometime in the future. Thank you to Mr. Whittaker.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me some time to figure out why my 3D prints were curling up at the edges and fixing it.
Good. So glad to be of service. Hereward was especially good this year for one particular reason.
Which I think literally you walked in past me and came back 5 minutes later?
If that.
Going, look what I got.
Well, you obviously missed me in the meantime, running very quickly, as quick as I can run, back out the door to the cash point in the garage across the road. Hereward do some trader tables for gamers, so you hire the table for an hour and so what have you. And this year they were positioned as you walk in. So you're walking past, yes. So you're walking past all these collections of games and stuff, and
universally considered to be a really good idea, by the way.
Oh yeah, no,
except possibly by the people.
Idea.
There was at least one person who turned to me about halfway down the line of tables from reception and said, "You do realise I'm spent up already, don't you?"
Mm. Yeah, from a placement point of view, that's akin to putting chocolate next to the checkout in supermarkets. Anyway,
works a treat.
Yeah,
we'll do that again.
Yeah, I was wandering in and walked past one table, the table, and then stopped at the third table and looked at the guy behind the desk. Looked back at this box and said, "Is that what I think it is?" "What do you think it is?" He said. "It looks like a copy of 3rd edition Space Hulk," says I. Yes, it had a sticker on it with less than 3 figures on it.
Considerably less than 3 figures, actually.
At which point I turned back to him and said, "What's wrong with it?" He went, "Oh, I think one of the figures has come off the sprue." And it was like, What? So you're telling me it's a mint copy? I said, yeah, open the box. Put the box back down. Said, would you mind putting this by for me for 2 minutes? Because I just need to pop out for a second. It was a wisest. And yeah, I haven't got quite enough cash with me. Give me a minute. Yes, so I picked up a pretty much mint copy of 3rd edition Space Hulk. For a bargain price. I was chuffed. I was incredibly chuffed. So
he was very, very chuffed.
So basically, it didn't matter what happened for the rest of the day; it was worth going. So that was Hereward. So yes, and that was my major purchase of the week. Obviously, completely unplanned. And then it was the case. I planned to obviously to purchase the stuff from Mr. Whittaker, but yes. A mint 3rd edition copy of Space Hulk is not to be sneezed at, and it is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous, as Mr. Hobbs will testify. And so since then, we've been already getting flack about whether because I obviously then turned around and said, "Well, it's a board game, so I don't have to paint it, do I? I can play it without painting it because it's a board game."
That's possibly one of the most borderline board games out there, I think.
I mean, the miniatures are fantastic and they demand painting, but in the meantime,
like I say, it's taken me. How long has it been out for? 8 years.
2009.
2009. 8 years. I painted 6 of them.
That's 6 down. That's another 6 Marines to go, and 20 odd D's leavers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might take some time, mate. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I was made up with that, so that was good. Have I bought anything else this week? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, a couple of cave trolls turned up from an eBay auction. A couple of plastic cave trolls turned up from an eBay auction for the Lord of the Rings army that I wasn't going to buy. Right, yeah, because I have because people generally know about and I've seen the dwarves. I haven't taken any pictures of the goblins yet, but I've obviously confessed that I bought a goblin army. But and needed a couple more cave trolls. So another couple of cave trolls turned up this week.
I was going to say there's one more in the post.
Oh yes. I forgot about that. Yes, yeah. Apparently there's one more in the post. Thank you, Mr. Hobbs. Well, he had to make something up to me for buying all the rest of Jeff's figures. At that point, I might have a few more Lord of the Rings figures turning up from another source as well. And then somebody else has turned around and said, "I hear you. Yes, I hear you're after Lord of the Rings figures, and especially since his original. I think I'm his treble 19 outshot." Because originally he turned around to Mr. Hobbs and said, "Do you want some Lord of the Rings figures?" And Hobbs went, "I think I'm a bit full." So he's come to me and said, "What do you want?" I said, "Can you hang on to this other box arrives and then I'll come back to you." Oh my word! What have we started? Yes. So some more Lord of the Rings figures potentially turning up, and then yes, I had a very nice copy of Rommel turn up from Mr. Mustafa, which was a lovely surprise. Thank you, Sam. And then I've been playing a lot of games. I think they're all basic classes board games. So last Thursday played a game called, I don't know if you've heard of this, called Tokaido, which is a game about, it's like a set collection game. But it's based on the trade route that ran between Kyoto and Edo.
Oh, right, yes. The what do you call it?
The Tokaido.
Yes.
No.
Will Wheaton's Tabletop covered it in the beginning of season 3.
Yes.
If anybody is curious about it, it's quite worth checking out. It's kind of fun.
Yes, it is. So we played that on last Thursday. It has some interesting mechanics. It's quite a light game it's not heavy strategy, but it's really interesting, and it's one of these games that there are multiple ways to win. And interesting things is like movement mechanic is it is completely diceless. It's basically you move as much as you want to, but it's always the person at the back that moves next. So basically, you have this route that you have to follow, and every place you stop, you can perform different actions, and it's your choice on where you stop. Very, very clever. Very clever. Interesting game. So that's Tokaido. And yeah, check out the tabletop game. The tabletop episode.
Has former Vikings punter Chris Cluey on it, if memory serves.
Oh, okay. So did that. Friday played X-Wing, which was good. Which was nice to get that out again. Get back into Friday night gaming with Josh. And this week he so what he fancied playing, and apparently he's been watching trailers of Battlefront 2. So that is PS4 Battlefront 2. So I said, "Can we play X-Wing, please?" So he played X-Wing, and had a blast. And yes, I died horribly, but it was good fun. And then because I've been stuck in a hotel room a couple of nights, and obviously I bought Space Hulk at the weekend, I was looking around my gaming collection and thinking, what's a good one, maybe two player game that I can say? So a game I can play solo, but yeah, potentially if I bump into somebody else, I could play as well. And I came across my copy of Death Angel, which is it was one of the Silverline games that Fantasy Flight produced, and it was one of the sets that games that they produced when they had the Games Workshop license. So basically, it's Space Hulk for card game. So it's been quite a while since I played it, but I do happen to own all the expansions for it. Don't know why, but there you go.
There's a shock.
Yeah. Yes, strange that. Never mind. Anyway, played that a couple of times last night. Oh, it's a cracking little game. I seem to remember at the time that it was. I think we're struggling a little bit with some of the complexities of the mechanics. Anyway, sat down, read the rules last night, and kind of went, "Oh yeah, this kind of all makes sense now." And it's cracking little game. Really good fun. I mean, playing it by yourself, it takes probably about 2 quarters of an hour to play. And of course, because Space Marines against Genestealers, there is much potential for horrible death before you can complete a mission. But yeah, it's a nice little game. So I played a couple of those, and that's about me. I was so this Death Angel. Yes, for one person who was asking us about solo games, this was actually one I'd missed from the list that we talked about, because I'd forgotten that you could play this on your own. May not be a lot of help because obviously it's now effectively out of print, but if you can get hold of a copy, it's good fun. And it even plays up to 6 players. So yeah, it's an interesting little game. And I think that's about me done.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. So, shall we speak to Shawn?
I think we should.
Indeed, that would be good there. Yes, indeed. So yes, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be chatting with Shawn Carpenter from Ambush Alley Games.
The nation is vast. There are battlefields of old, great convention halls, and worlds of fantasy to explore. Who will guide us across this great geek nation?
Since 2010, Geek Nation Tours have been providing holidays for groups of like-minded people. Whatever your nature of geek, tabletop gaming, TV, film, comic books, sports or science, Geek Nation Tours caters for you. Visit www.geeknationtours.com for more details and join the great Geek Nation. Have you ever wondered what's going on in wargaming? We do too. So come with us as we go behind the hobby with the Meeples and Miniatures interview. We're very pleased to welcome back to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast after an absence of, well, I think I sat down and worked it out, Shawn. I think I last spoke to you sometime around about 2009.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. It's Shawn Carpenter from Ambush Alley Games. How are you, Shawn?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still awake, which is good. Obviously, with time differences here, because you're in Oklahoma?
That's right.
That's
right.
It's
the dangers of talking to Okies. We keep you up all night.
Yeah, but it's great to chat. It's been a long, long time since we talked. But obviously, and a lot has happened in that period. So I was keen to catch up with Shawn and find out what was happening with Ambush Alley and things like what life was like after the Osprey deal and various other bits and pieces. So I was keen to catch up with Shawn. However, we were just chatting before we before we started recording, and regular listeners to the show will know that when we speak to guests, we get them to tell them a little bit about their hobby background and how they got into the hobby in the first place. And we just had a chat, and I can't remember if we ever had that conversation. So, because that was in the early days when we last spoke.
That's right.
And we've had what 150 odd shows since then. So I'm gonna and even if we did, I'm gonna go back and because I can't remember. So I'd like to find out again. So Shawn, as a way of introduction, can you just tell us a bit about how you got into the hobby in the first place and how Ambush Alley Games got started?
Sure. Well, I'm probably like a lot of people my age, which is extremely old, in that I got started with board games. I'll never forget back in the 70s when I first encountered Squad Leader. My friends and I just were enthralled by that game. Just played it. I don't know how many boards we wore out playing Squad Leader, mm-hmm. and then this little white box came in the mail for me one day that was the original Dungeons and Dragons set. And then I veered off into RPGs and for years played RPGs. In fact, I got completely away from board gaming and wargaming and was just totally an RPG snob.
Oh, right. So you had the white box. Whoa.
Yes. Well, like I said, I'm old. And then in the 80s, a friend of mine said, "Hey, take a look at this. Take a look at this white dwarf. Look at these new miniatures that they've come out with. These are kind of cool." And I looked at them and thought, "Oh, that's stupid. That's orcs in space. Forget that." So obviously, then I got into Warhammer 40K, whether I liked it or not, and was a huge Games Workshop fan back in the 80s and 90s, and played that.
It gets us all in the end, doesn't it?
Yes. I had nothing but contempt for it when I first saw it. Like I said, I was a big RPG snob. I wasn't interested in playing with toy soldiers. And then I saw some on the table and saw people playing and thought, maybe I'll try this. It could be a little thing. And then thousands of dollars later. But when I got married and had children, that had a chilling effect on my gaming for a while. And somewhere around the late 80s, early 90s, I actually dropped out of gaming altogether and took a hiatus that lasted until about 2005. And I moved back. I'd been living on the East Coast. I moved back to Oklahoma, and was close to my brother Robbie again. And we were sitting around one day reminiscing about how much fun it was to play miniature games. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really want to get back into Games Workshop. We didn't want to shop. It just wasn't what we wanted to do. And we tried out several different rule sets and tried out different things. And finally, one evening, we were sitting on the front porch after having played a game that we just weren't completely satisfied with, and we decided, what the heck, we'll just design our own set of rules just to play with, just us, just a homebrew, have some fun building it, have some fun playing it. Never had any intent of doing anything commercial with it, and that was about 2007, 2008, something like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that became Ambush Alley. We finished off the rules over one summer, and we were playing it. Our friends were playing it. We were having a lot of fun with it. And of course, that was at the very beginning of the digital sales.
Yeah.
And I realized, I was like, before now, I probably wouldn't have been able to put this game out commercially because, I probably wouldn't have been able to afford to print it and, advertise it and, all of the different problems that you had prior to the digital age. But I realized, hey, I can make this into a decent looking PDF and put up a website, and I can sell this game. And initially our thought was, we might sell 5 or 6 of these things a month, and that'll help buy new miniatures for us to play the game with. And that's not exactly how it worked out. The first night that we put it up for sale, we sold, I can't remember, it was like 1,300 or 1,400 copies the first night. I seem
to remember it was quite popular at the time.
Yeah, it kind of took off, and we weren't expecting it, so we had to kind of go, oh well, maybe this is serious, and we should actually put a little more thought into what we're doing here and try to expand. And so that in a nutshell is a very large nutshell, I guess, but that in a nutshell is how I got started and how Ambush Alley Games came about.
Cool. Okay, so we started off with Ambush Alley, which was the original asymmetric combat.
That's correct.
And then we had Ambush C.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got on to Force on Force. First edition, right. Force on Force, yeah?
First edition Force on Force. Right.
First edition Force on Force, which included both modern and World War II in that one.
Correct.
And then we had Tomorrow's War.
Mm-hmm.
And then Osprey came around. So can you tell us, just to recap, what happened with Osprey and that whole arrangement, how did that work? Because obviously, that went on for a while, but we're now at the end of that. So so can you just take us through what happened through that, and then we'll talk about where we are at the other side?
Sure. It's really kind of interesting. One day I got an email from a guy named Joe McCullough that everybody should know now because he's the fellow that wrote Frost.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, that's just been a little bit popular, hasn't
it? Just a little bit, yeah. So I got an email from Joe McCullough, and he said, hey, I've got your game. I've played it a couple of times. I think it's really cool. Would you mind? I don't even remember what he initially wanted. I think he wanted to know, maybe do an interview or something. I don't remember. There was no business involved in it, though. But he was representing Osprey, and I was like, sure, that'd be great. And I was all excited because somebody from Osprey had talked to me. I'd been reading Osprey since I was a little kid, and we did some back and forth, and they promoted one of our supplements. But still, it was just, Joe was a fan of the game, and he happened to work for Osprey, and there wasn't a whole lot going on there. And then one day, I got a call from Joe saying that Richard Sullivan would like to talk to me. And we got on a call, and Rich said, well, how would you like it if you had greater advertising and saturation into the, the upscale stores and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And I was like, sure, I would love that. That would be great. Who wouldn't like that? Mm-hmm. So, and I was completely shocked. I had not expected, I honestly thought that they were coming to us to talk about, maybe advertising our stuff, or maybe us advertising them in some of our books, and instead it was, they had obviously looked at our stuff and were interested in publishing it. So they came to us with a I can't go into details, but they came to us with a very fair, good deal, and really I had a ball working with the people at Osprey. Gamers tend a lot of times to see conspiracies or look for drama where there isn't. So I've had a lot of people come up and say, "Oh, collision that led to you breaking off with Osprey. What did you do to make you so mad? Or what did you do to make them so mad?" And nothing. I mean, we worked together quite well. Our contract period ended, and we both decided that we kind of wanted to go in slightly different directions. So Osprey was at that point in time was doing their moving into what they're doing now, where they were putting out lots of one-shot games.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different thing than what they were doing with us. I think we were a little expensive compared to that, to go in that route. So, but there's no animosity. We just went our own ways. But it was very much a learning experience. I think from a business perspective, it was good and bad for us.
Yeah.
It was good for us because it did get us out in front of a lot of people. A lot of people at least know our games, even if they don't notice our logo on the books. Sometimes they do at least know our games, and it taught us a lot about higher end production, as far as we learned more about managing tight deadlines, and which we'd never worried about before, because we were just an indie company. We put stuff out when we put stuff out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of amazing. I don't think people realize sometimes, or probably understand, what the Force on Force package that we put out through Osprey involved. There are 2 core rule books, Force on Force and Tomorrow's War, and then 8 supplements. So 10 rather large books that we put out we produced in a year and a half.
That was some going.
Yeah. So while maintaining full-time jobs, because we, contrary to popular belief, although I joke a lot about Ambush Alley Games, we don't really have towers, and we're not a full-time game company. We are, we're still at heart a little indie game company. We just happen to get a moment in the spotlight with Osprey.
Yeah. Yeah. So that agreement came to an end, a couple of years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been I think 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And we immediately went back to our roots, in that we forgot about entirely how deadlines work. and our production schedule went to heck in a handbasket, because we just were like, it was so nice to be able to not have we had gotten so used to having one book that was in the starting block, one book that was halfway finished, and one book that we were doing final production on, that to have no books anywhere was kind of a nice little break.
I was going to say. I mean, after that type of production schedule, I bet it was ended up being a case of, it's nice to have a break. It's nice to have a bit of a holiday.
Yeah, I think we maybe took it a little too far. And there are other factors. We did, right after the end of our Osprey tenure, we did put out a nice supplement for Tomorrow's War. We put out By Dagger or Talon, which I think that's actually one of the books I'm very proud of. And don't take this in any way as me bagging on Osprey, but we work with a layout artist that I think is an extremely good layout artist, and we politicked very hard to try to get her to do the layout work for the Osprey books, and of course it just wouldn't work. I mean, they had their own, they had an art department. They're not going to bring somebody in that's from outside to do this. That it didn't make good business sense. So, but it's nice. It was really nice to be back working with someone whose style I liked better than the Osprey presentation, honestly. And
hey, at least you could read Document Talent.
Yeah.
Not wishing to put too fine a point on it, but but Tomorrow's World does have a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it's a terrible issue, and I don't know what happened with that. Honestly, it's I think definitely a ball got dropped somewhere along the way, because when I saw the initial proofs on that, I said that background is too dark. I can't even, because if you ever see me in person, there's a resemblance between me and Mr. Magoo. So it's not that I have eagle eyes and I can read these things. So I was looking at it going, man, I'm having a hard time reading this. So I was like, we need to lighten up this the background, and everybody basically. The folks at Osprey were like, yeah, we definitely need to do that. And then it didn't happen for, I think an email got lost. But that's the recurring complaint about Tomorrow's War, is how difficult it is to read. And believe me, when we do, well, I think if you've anybody who's listening who's had a chance to see either By Dagger or Talon or first edition Force on Force, or any of the kind of second generation of games that we put out, the original Ambush Valley, those books, they have very clean. You can definitely read them. We used a larger font. We used a lighter back. I don't even really like to have a screen behind text in my books if I can get away with it, because I think the text area is for reading, and then there are pictures that go on top of that are for looking at.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So
I mean, on a serious note, and funny, this has come up. This came up in a conversation I was having with another designer, and we were talking about Tomorrow's World as a case in point, because both of us love the rules, and yet, as I say, from a layout point of view, it was a bit of a disaster. Do you think that that was a reason why? Because I get asked on several occasions, whatever happened to Tomorrow's World, and I still stand by. I know I reviewed it when it came out, and I still stand by the fact that I think it is one of the best, if not the best, set of sci-fi skirmish rules out there. And yet, I say, do you think that particular version, adversely affected the game? Let's say the word massively out there. Adversely affected the game.
Yes, I do think so. I think there were actually two things that adversely affected Tomorrow's War. One was the layout wasn't great on it. It was difficult to read. The organization wasn't fantastic on it, and that's a place where there's nobody to point fingers at but myself, because I primarily did the organization on the book. So so I have to take blame on that. And the other piece that kind of played into it too was we put it out and then there was no support for it. There were no supplements for it, and we didn't have time. I mean, we put out Tomorrow's War in the middle of the Force on Force production schedule, and there was just literally no time to do any supplements to support Tomorrow's War. So it wasn't until after our association with Osprey ended that we were able to put out our first, Tomorrow's War supplement. And I think that might have been a little too late for at least that iteration of the game. My hope is to breathe new life into it and put a lot more supporting material out for it, and and put out a cleaner edition of it.
Yeah. So we're kind of at a point at the moment where the Osprey contract came to an end, and basically it seemed that Force on Force has almost kind of naturally disappeared as far as published books are concerned.
Yes.
There's the odd copy still floating around here and there, but generally paper copies is now difficult to get hold of. Right, but that doesn't mean to say the game's going away, is it?
No, the game still actually. Our digital sales of the game are pretty brisk still to this day, and it's nice to see. It's interesting. I'll see people will start discussions online. They'll say, I'm thinking about playing this modern conflict. I'm always in the top 3 or 4 suggestions of rules to use, even though, we're a game that's actually kind of long in the tooth now in the realities of the gaming industry. If your game's more than 2 years old, it's kind of old, and
yeah, but at the same time, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's it.
So we're in a situation where, okay, there aren't physical copies available, but now all the digital production has now reverted back to yourself, yeah?
Correct.
Right. So all the titles you mentioned earlier are still available from the Ambush Alley website, yeah?
Absolutely. All the digital versions are available. In fact, we had like a groundswell. It was really strange. It must have been something in the water, but probably a year ago, 9 months ago, we started getting emails, 3 or 4 emails a day from different people saying, why don't you sell your old stuff? We'd like to see your old stuff back up, and we pulled all of that stuff down because we thought, probably weren't really interested in playing, the original Ambush Alley game because, most of those Force and Ambush Alley is old and black and white and clunky looking. And, I literally laid that out on Word, so not a pretty game. But so we didn't think it probably had any commercial value. And people started pestering us, wanting us to put that stuff back up. So I did. I went and I put back up original Ambush Alley and all the old, I don't know if you remember them or not, Neil, but, we used to do those little 3-scenario mini campaigns.
They were fantastic. They were absolutely brilliant. I've got all of them. They are brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
So we put all of those. Yeah, we put all of those back up. Those are all back up available on our website for purchase, so yeah, there's still a lot of Ambush Alley stuff out there, Ambush Alley game stuff out there to be had. You just need to go to our website and check out that digital content section.
Mm. Cool.
And we intend with future releases, we're moving forward. We know that people like hard copies. They like to be able to, we have not yet made that jump to fully digital media where people are perfectly satisfied looking at it on their tablet or, on their laptop. People still want to hold the book in their hands. So, with the next releases that we do are, at the very minimum, we're going to do print on demand for books so that, they'll be available in print or media format. Unfortunately, we can't really do that with the Osprey imprint books because, well, it was books, so that's never a good thing. And also, those are kind of a proprietary size. It's not really something I can really, just send to to Wargames Vault or something and say, hey, print these for me. Mm. So going forward, new material will be available both digitally and at least print on demand, if not actually just printed.
Cool. Which kind of brings me on to my next question. Force on Force has been out there as a game system, and Tomorrow's World obviously has been out there as a game system for some time now. You started posting a while ago about the fact that you were beginning to look at a new version of the game and mentioned Ambush Alley 2. Mm-hmm. So what's happening at the moment with moving forward with the game? And tell us more about Ambush Alley 2 and what's happening with that, and what's happening with Ambush Alley at the moment. And of course, also at the time you produced a miniatures range for Tomorrow's World, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We worked with John Teffley at GZG and Ground Zero Games and put out some 15mm figures for Tomorrow's War, U.S. figures and Brazilian figures and Republic of Glory and DPRK. So, and our crazy monsters are the Dargau, the turtle guys with antlers. So, so we've got miniatures support out there for Tomorrow's War as well. As far as Ambush Alley 2 goes, I wanted to kind of go back to our roots. I wanted to do a game that was designed from the ground up to be playable in a relatively short amount of time in a relatively small area with a relatively small number of figures. Force on Force and Tomorrow's War can both be played that way. There's absolutely nothing to prevent you from playing small squad level games with either one of those rule sets, and a lot of people do. But because they were also designed to support bigger battles, it's real hard as a gamer to resist going big. If the rules support it, why not do that? And so what I wanted to do was kind of get back to a game that was specifically designed to play at the smaller end of the spectrum. And I also wanted to actually dig back and maybe pull the focus in even a little tighter than Ambush Alley. We've always been a team. Fire teams have always been the decision unit for our games. So you move fire teams around, you shoot fire teams, etc. And I wanted to. I'd been looking some of the books that I'd been reading, and of course, I'm like anyone else. I watch movies, I play video games, and I think, man, it'd be cool to be able to do that on the tabletop. So I'm stepping away a little bit from historicity, with these rules, and you will be able to play, a single figure that is as capable as a fire team. Basically, we're putting heroes in the game.
Right.
And it's scalable. So if you're wanting to play, if you are wanting to play a realistic historical scenario that involved, a fire team of special operations troops, you can do that and dial it back so that, it does play out in a gritty, realistic style. But on the other hand, if you want to play a Hollywood movie, if you just watched John Wick and you want to try to wade through an entire building of narco-terrorists, you can do that too. So the new game is it's a little more pays a little more, goes back a little more to the gamey side of gaming as well. That probably isn't exactly the right way to put it, because it's not a gamey game. It's we've maintained our engine. The basic engine in it is very, very similar to Force on Force and Tomorrow's War. So it still has, I feel like it's still got a fairly realistic skeleton underneath it.
Yeah.
We're just giving you the opportunity to put crazy flesh on that skeleton if you want to.
Right. Okay. So so basically what we're looking at is perhaps a lot more different adaptions that you can, and a lot more layers that you can put on the basic set of rules, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. And the plan is that our initial rule set, which we're probably not going to call Ambush Alley 2, we're probably going to call it actually Ambush Alley CQB for close quarters combat, or close quarters battle, because that's really what we're focused on, is close quarters fights. And the first rule book, or the first book, is going to be kind of a near future setting, like very near future, like within the next decade or two.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put out expansions that will be, we have to do a zombie expansion because everybody has been screaming at us for a second edition of Ambush Z since Ambush Z was first printed almost. So we've got to do a second. We've got to do a new zombie book. And
because for some reason everybody thinks things are better with zombies. I still don't understand.
God, everything's better with shambling zombies for some reason. And we also want to do specifically a Tomorrow's War book that that focuses on the real the powered armored troops and the genetically modified troops and the enhanced special forces that we talked about in by Dagger or Talon. We want to ramp that up a notch or two and let people really go crazy with it. So, and as far as the other titles go, as far as Force on Force and Tomorrow's War go, my plan is to eventually, and I'm not going to give any timelines because, as I told you, the first thing that went out the door was our ability to maintain anything like a production schedule. So I'm not going to say something so that I can 6 months from now be told, you are a big fat liar.
That's fair enough.
But our intent is to put out new versions of Force on Force and Tomorrow's War as well, at least cleaner versions, if for no other reason, so that we can print them again, so that people can have print copies of those rules. But we also want to do some streamlining and clean up the organization, obviously make them a little more readable. And there are some mechanisms that we stepped away from in the Osprey edition that I want to go back to, such as when we did the Osprey versions, we kind of stepped away from the asset card concept. And I want to move back to that where, just so rather than have to dig through the rule book to find the rules for how to call in an airstrike and what the impact is of the airstrike and yada, yada, yada. I just want to have an asset card that's, an airstrike asset card or attack, controller asset card that has all the rules on the card that you need to be able to use it and not have to go dig through the book. So, that's one of the main things you want to do is make the game, far more user-friendly. We took a toolbox approach to Force on Force and Tomorrow's War because that's kind of, I told you, I cut my teeth on squad leader, so I was kind of used to the concept of you start out with this rule book and then you layer 19 other rule books on top of it.
Indeed.
You're never going to play a game that uses rules from every single, that uses every single rule book, but you might use individual rules from every single rule book in a scenario. And that's kind of what we did with Tomorrow's War and with Force on Force. And for people who were, for gamers who are used to that concept, they didn't have any problems with that. But one of the complaints that that I have heard from some of our customers is, how am I supposed to remember how to use all this stuff? And I'm like, well, if you're literally using all that stuff in one scenario, I have no idea how you're supposed to remember it. If you didn't write it, you're probably going to have a hard time remembering all of that. But it was never our intent that you use everything in the rule book in a single scenario.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to ease back a little bit and maybe limit our focus a little bit. And then, for people who want that extra detail, we'll provide that through, different ways other than a huge toolbox style rule book.
Cool. You're just saying, okay, we're not putting any timescales on this. I mean, how close are you to getting Ambush Alley, CQB, ready in a publishable state?
It's actually fairly close. We're in the process of doing some play testing right now. I have a draft right now sitting on my desktop that I think is very close to a finished draft as far as the core mechanisms go. There's other pieces that need to be plugged into it. I'm working. One of the things that we're doing, I guess I probably should have led with this because this was again one of the biggest criticisms of Force on Force and Tomorrow's War is that it didn't include any scenario balancing rules. So no point list, no army list, anything like that. No point system. I
always found that quite refreshing personally, but there we go.
Yeah, well, we looked at it because originally, because I'm kind of stubborn, and when the complaint originally started percolating up, I was just like, well, who cares? You either like it, if you don't like, there's plenty of games out there that have point systems and army lists if that's the kind of game that you want to play. But I like scenario based games where the victories conditions determine who the winner is, not how many points you lost on either side. And we'll still be more focused on that than on we're just gonna. But I realized that it's not bad to not everybody has an intuitive grasp of how to balance a scenario. So what am I hurting? Who am I hurting by providing, a force balancing mechanism to people who aren't good at, figuring it out intuitively? It doesn't hurt the people who are good at doing it intuitively. They're going to continue to play the game however the heck they want to play the game. Just like my brother and my friends and I did 40K back in ye olden days. We ignored the army list. We'd just say, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a squad of these guys fight about 1,000 of those guys and see how long they can live. So we decided to go ahead and listen to people. It's a terrible thing to do, I suppose, for a business to do, to listen to their customers, but we decided we'd give it a try. And so we're going to include a force balancing mechanism that'll let people come up, at least look at scenarios in a roughly even game. And for pickup games, and that's the other thing that I had to realize, especially for the European market, because here in America, at least in the part of America where I live, you can't just walk into a game club and have a pickup game. you have to plan these things because there's not as many gamers, and they tend to be busy and they tend to be more fragmented. And so, you have to get with people, and, part of playing a game is actually figuring out who's going to play in the game, when they can be there, what they're going to play, So coming up with a scenario to run is, a lot of times, is a good thing. People want to know what they're bringing in advance. But if you're playing someplace where you can just walk in and say, hey, who wants to play, Force on Force? And somebody goes, yeah, I'd like to. Then it's kind of nice to be able to let those people just, come up with a somewhat balanced game that they can just come up with on the spur of the moment and play. So that's kind of affected, that's why we're moving in that direction.
Right.
There's going to be some people out there who are like, Shawn, you're a traitor and a heretic by moving to, point systems. But again, I tell those people, you don't have to use them.
Yes. Feel free just to play the game exactly how you played it before. Yeah.
Before. Absolutely. So.
Cool. Okay, so that's where we are at the moment with Ambush Alley 2. I'm assuming we're looking at end of the year, maybe early next year before. As I say, if you're playtesting at the moment, we're looking 6 months down the line, maybe.
Yeah, probably the end of this year. If I was going to put it in, pretend like I actually did have some sort of production schedule, I'd say, late Q4 or Q1 of next year. So.
Yeah, because obviously you're not in this full time, are you? You have a day job, so this is just a part time.
Yes. Contrary to popular belief, because I also get emails occasionally telling me why don't I do as well as this big company putting out lots of supplements and doing this and that and the other, because I am actually after all a big corporation. It's like, no, we are not a big corporation. There's three of us and we all have day jobs. So we are a little indie company that happened to work with a large company for a while, but now we're back to being a little indie company. So, but yes, no, that's the plan is to have it released, sometime in that, hopefully by the end of the year or at least in the first quarter of next year. See, now you tricked me into it. And so now when I don't have it ready by the end of the year, I'm going to get hate mail. And,
no.
I'll say, I'm just going to say it's your fault, Neil. So
okay. Okay. I'll put my hand up and say, yeah, sorry, Shawn, I'll put you on the spot. It is my fault that you just gone there.
That's right.
Yeah. So just redirect that hate mail in my direction. Okay?
I'll just forward it straight on.
No problem at all. Not a problem at all.
Speaking of, we talked a little bit about the miniatures line that we have with GZG. We also have, for Force on Force, we also have Elheim miniatures, our official 20 millimeter line of Force on Force miniatures. So, and they're working with us. Matt is working with us on some nice figures to support, specifically to support Ambush Alley CQB. So you'll see some pretty neat new near future 20 millimeter figures coming down the pike pretty soon. Yeah.
Cool. Now, going back to Force on Force for a second. Now, obviously, one of the things that happened when Force on Force went to Osprey was the fact that obviously Osprey will also happen to be publishing Bolt Action at the time. So the World War tournament of Force on Force was taken out.
Correct.
Is that something that is available now to add back in? Is that something you're putting back in the future when you redo it? Or now you've got Force on Force, I suppose people know it as a post-war game. Right. Are you going to keep it as a post-war game, or are you actually looking to go back to where it was originally, which is, post-war, but also World War II?
Haven't really decided yet, but my inclination is to go back to how we originally had it and just provide, where the majority of the rules are addressing post-war gaming, but that we include sections on how to tailor it to World War II, which is what we originally did. I was actually working for a while. I kind of went down a design rabbit hole for a little bit because I wanted to do a World War II specific game, and actually did quite, and it used some of the core mechanics from Ambush or from our AAG engine, but it also had some different pieces to it, and I'm still kind of tempted to go back and resurrect that and do an actual standalone World War II game. Yeah,
because as I say, at the end of the day, although a lot of the base tactics remain the same, especially the way, I suppose if nothing else, warfare and technology has changed. I suppose, it's a conflict that merits its own approach, if you like.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I felt. I mean, there are certain, some of the design philosophies that we used in Force on Force, absolutely applicable to World War II. But there are some other things that World War II was kind of its own creature. There were so I keep toying around with doing that, but we'll see. I don't know. That is kind of in the future still. I have to figure that out. But we definitely need to do something because we're constantly, that again is on our hit parade of emails. Is when are you going to do a World War II book, or when are you going to put out the Force on Force World War II rules in their own little booklet or something. And we actually have had that up. One of the calamities that we ran into, unfortunately, after Osprey was our website was just pretty much demolished. We got hit by hackers very.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and they just destroyed us. They destroyed our website. They killed our forum, and we're still kind of recovering from that. But I've got a draft that actually has the original, just the World War II sections from first edition Force on Force. I need to get that put back up on the website where it's easily accessible, so that people can at least use those rules again. Because they're still applicable. They'll still work with the new rules. You may have to squint and do a little bit of hacking to make it work, but they're still definitely usable.
Cool. I mean, first off, it's good to know that, if in that sense, although your your market visibility has reduced somewhat. I mean, first off, it's good to know that you haven't gone away, that you're still around. I know how, obviously World War II and modern war has really taken off in the past 10 years. And it's more popular than ever now. And obviously, you were at the forefront of that, weren't you? You were there right at the start, and one of the first sets of rules to do that. And I feel that it will be really good to have Ambush Alley back in the mix because, as I say, it's still one of my favourite sets of rules.
Well, that's certainly our plan, and it's interesting. It's funny how times change because I was originally told. That I had people tell me, you are absolutely insane to put out a modern game. No one is going to play a modern game. You are crazy. None of the modern games are selling. Yours isn't going to sell either. It's depressing. People don't want to do it. They see it on the news. Why would they want to play that on their table? You're an idiot. I mean, we did not get from the people who were naysayers were really strong naysayers. They were the same ones who told me, you'll never get $15 for a PDF. No one will ever pay that much for a PDF. You're out of your mind. So we ignored that and we put out our modern rule set in PDF format for $15, and it took off. And I like to think that that we did have that we did kind of pave the way. There were other modern games out there before us, obviously, who were successful and also paved the way. But I like to think that we played a part, at least, in making modern gaming something that actually is a pretty good chunk of miniature gaming today.
Very much so. Very much so.
I'd just like to say, keep an eye on our on our website for people who are interested in our games. Keep an eye on our website and our Facebook page. We've kind of moved away. I've got on the Wargames website, we have a forum that's devoted to Ambush Alley games that they were kind enough to let us use when our forum died.
Yeah.
But and I'm trying to do better. I was without a forum for so long that I got out of the habit of reading and writing on a forum, and I need to get back into the habit and support that more. But we also, do our best to keep people up to date on our Ambush Alley Games LLC Facebook page. So please, if you're interested in our games, we're out there. You can find out about us. Look for us on our forum on the Wargames website or at on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll make sure we put links to that in the show notes, so people know where they are.
We slowed down, unfortunately we did, we had the initial letdown from, just the ability to take a breath and relax after after separating from Osprey and, getting away from that vicious production cycle. And then, we had, sadly, we had some family crises that came up, and so we did kind of take a hit. We did lay fallow for a couple of years, but we definitely aren't gone, and hopefully you'll see some really exciting stuff from us in the fairly near future.
Well, Shawn, that is really good to hear. Yeah, so I am looking forward to this new version of Ambush Alley that's coming out. As I say, always love the game, and it is good to hear that everything's still there. And as I say, even then, when people kind of go, okay, can I still get hold of that particular supplement that I missed when Osprey were publishing it? At least it's a case of you can go back and we can still get hold of PDFs and various other bits and pieces. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And we do some pretty nice deals too. I mean, not to try to flog wares, but we have some pretty nice deals on our website too. If you're somebody who, wants to get into Force on Force, we have a deal where you can get a discount on, you can buy everything, at a pretty steeply discounted price, get every supplement and the rule books all in one go. And we've also sorted the supplements into, categories. So, if you're just interested in the Afghan and the Iraqi wars, we've got a bundle that's all the supplements for just the Afghan and the Iraqi wars, and then we have bundles that are for special operations and so forth. So it's the nice thing about the digital products are we're a little freer in giving discounts.
Well, Shawn, that all sounds good. As I say, it's been fantastic to catch up with you again. We really must not leave it so long next time.
No, we should not be strangers. That's true.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what then. Okay, so right. Okay, let's make a plan. So when Ambush Alley CQB is actually up and around and available, let's get you back on, and we'll chat to you, and we'll talk in depth about that particular game, and go through it, because as I say, it's always been a great set of rules. I think it's been innovative. Even if I could say that word, no, I think it's you introduced a cool set of mechanics, and resurrected some stuff that I loved from other games, and so we'd love to get you back on and chat all about it. So we'll look forward to speaking to you when that comes out.
Sounds like a date.
Yeah, that sounds good. But in the meantime, we want to wish you all the very best with how things are going. Good luck with the playtesting, or finishing off the playtesting. And it's been great to catch up. So wish you well, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Neil. Looking forward to it.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
We hope that you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, would you like to support us? There's a couple of ways of doing so. You can become a patron of the show by supporting us on our Patreon page. There you can give regularly every time we produce a show. Alternatively, you
you may want to give a one-off donation, and you can do that by using PayPal. For more details on both these options, please click on the Donate tab on our website www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk.
It was good to catch up with Shawn again. It was rather scary when I checked off air and realised that the last time I'd actually spoken to him was the best part of 8 years ago. So it was really, really good to catch up with him, and hopefully, yeah, it's good to hear that they haven't gone away. But obviously things are running a little bit slower than they were before because of things like day jobs and stuff, and of course, obviously, it's not their games are not being produced by a publisher anymore. They're having to do it all themselves. But looking forward to seeing what they've got coming up. I got them to commit to a date, but let's be kind and not holding to it just in case.
Yeah.
Yes, he was very reticent. I pushed him, the poor lad. Yes, it was one of those. It was definitely one of those things where we went, darn it, Shook. You actually got me to mention the date. Yeah. Take it with a pinch of salt. It's like Easter.
It's always Easter.
It's always Easter. It comes around eventually. Cool. So yes, looking forward to seeing what Shawn's going to be doing with new versions of Ambush Alley and what have you. So looking forward to that. Right.
Are we done?
I do believe we are.
I think we are a bit. I mean, we do. Okay, we do have one thing to do, which unfortunately I have to confess, at this point in time, I haven't had a chance to do it, having been away from home for a couple of days and been up to my eyes in work and hadn't really thought about it. And that was the caption competition.
Ah, the caption competition. Lots of entries.
It seemed a little popular.
What should we do for the next one?
Yes. Okay, I said I was going to announce the winner on this week's show. Given what, if you haven't seen it, go and have a look on the blog. I think I published it last Friday. I think it was 1st September. I published all the entries just to give some people a giggle. I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to put a short list out. You kind of go, okay, here's a short list of my favourites, and then we'll pick from there who the winners are. But thank you to everybody who took the time to enter. There are some absolute belters in there. There's at least a couple of coffee stalkers. But yes, unfortunately, with just practicalities, haven't really got round to judging it. So all being well, that should be sorted out next week. Before I go, I just have to say it was lovely to catch up with John and Luke, especially at Hereward. Spent a long time chatting with John, and who I previously met at Salute, and it was good to see Luke. I've chatted to Luke a lot on email and Twitter, and it was good to finally meet up with him in the flesh. It's always good to catch up with listeners and meet people. It's one of the joys of going around the show circuit. To be fair, it is the biggest pleasure of going to Wargame shows for me.
Only wish I wasn't quite so busy at Hereward. So apologies for folks who did not get my undivided attention, but I didn't have a lot of it to spare.
Yeah, but thank you to everybody who said hello, and it was lovely to chat. So thanks everybody, and all being well, might catch you at Derby. Although Mr. Hobbs was throwing a reasonably sized spanner towards me regarding Derby, so we'll have to have a discussion. But yeah, that might end up being a bit of a busy weekend. You never know.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Will we play IMB Shop on that weekend as well?
It's gone quiet, isn't it?
I've done it.
Gotcha.
We just. Look, just because I'm disorganised doesn't have to say you can hold it against me. Right, so I think on that note we shall call it a day, and we shall catch up with you chaps next week. And next week we will be doing a game review. Horror of Horrors, and we'll be doing a board game review, even more Horror of Horrors. So board game review coming up next week. So that to look forward to.
There's no truth in the rumour it'll be Space Out 3rd edition.
You never know, what we recorded might get bugged. I mean, Terminator's back in vogue. Did they still do a Deathwing army?
Yeah, but you can't afford it.
Exact point.
Well, I've got all the Terminators. Unfortunately, I've sold the Land Raiders and the and the Dreadnoughts. I've still got all the Terminators.
Yeah, you still can't afford it.
Yeah, fair enough. Board game review next week, not Space Hulk 3rd edition. Promise.
Right.
So until then, all left to remain to be said is thank you for joining us. Thank you to Mr. Whittaker.
You're welcome.
And thank you once again to the Welsh Wizard himself.
Thank you, and see you all soon.
See you all soon indeed. So, Mr. Hobbs, are you going to promise to be a good boy this week?
Well, promises are for losers, I think.
It's not going to happen.
I think people should stand by their strength for their character. I regret nothing.
You are Edith Piaf and I came by 5 fronts.
Just stand by the strength of their character. Yeah, unfortunately, I rolled 3 ones during character creation.
You have to put it on strength.
And on that note,
bye-bye and roll good dice.
Thank you to everybody for listening. Take care, and we will speak to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.